Welcome, everyone, to a Thursday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Our Thursday look at the NFL Week 4 slate and a little Major League Baseball winding down from our wonderful friends over at Played Against Sports. It's pretty easy to get all the information. Just go online, playedagainstsports.com, click in the New Jersey store, which is located 1450 Clementsbridge Road. They've got a ton of jerseys coming in. Hurts. They got all the golf equipment. They got the tees, and also too for the rewards for you loyal customers. Sign up first time, spend 150 or more, and you get a couple dollars back in the pocket. Everything's right there online, open 7 days a week, convenient hours. You can shop online, and of course, you can walk in as well. As I mentioned, hopefully the weather keeps breaking a little bit so you can squeeze in maybe a couple more weeks of golf. So we always appreciate them supporting BYP, which leads us into our good friend, the prop Professor Shine, who is always kind enough to join us. I don't know what kind of a weekend you had, my friend, but if there was ever a weekend in the NFL where you look at some of the games being blowouts and you think to yourself, this would have been the week where I could have loaded up. It's Monday morning quarterbacking. We saw it in not one, not two, not three, but 4 games across the board, games where you just sat back and you just kind of relaxed. Buffalo, the Texans, Miami, I think just scored again, right? It was just waxing all over. And then Kansas City, I know that's a game we talked about, Kansas City and Chicago. You thought maybe Chicago would show signs of life, and they just pretty much wilted like the green grass on the island.
No, I had I early in the year, there's always a little bit of I don't want to call them generic overlays, but there's too much of a reaction early of week to week.
Yep.
As we get each week tells us a little bit more about the team. If you're using stats for the first 2 weeks, of yards per point and yards per play, it's dicey. Like you have to add other stuff to what you're doing with previous metrics or whatever. But point being is that one team, because what they did last year is not the same as this year. Though Kansas City, could win this game.
Sure.
One score or one of those things where it's a 2 score and Kansas City of old shows up. And they layup up. And then, of course, the thing nobody was really expecting 70 from Miami. And you realize now that although I know you're down on Russell Wilson and the world's kind of down on the defense can't tackle. Nope. Doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback. They gave up. Did Tua have an incompletion for the first 2 hours of the game?
I went back and rewatched that game. They were scoring like in 3-4 plays. It was just bang, bang, bang. He was like 20 of 21. He was unbelievable. And it's funny too, to listen to McDaniel sit there and say, we're not going to run it up. Come on, bro. You could have stopped at 50. Why not kick a freaking field goal to get to 73? But
if you are going to run it up, though, I don't mind it being against Sean Payton. I think if you follow on Twitter, I put a link to when the Colts were in the transition between Luck getting drafted. They're going to draft Luck, and Peyton Manning had to sit out the entire year with the neck injury before he went to Denver. So, of course, the Colts were going to basically in tank mode. The NFL didn't want to talk about that. I think it was 2011. And they had a game in New Orleans where Peyton put the screws to them for a 62-7 piece or 61-7 piece.
Yep.
Where they knew they were tanking. So if you're going to this is the NFL, learn how to tackle. Even the third string guys, if you have third string guys, or if you have that 6th D-back, that guy wants to be on a roster in the NFL somewhere. And if he's not going to tackle people, he's not going to be on the roster, regardless of what the score is. I could see in college, you maybe when you play the 3rd or 4th string guy in college and you do running plays. A lot of these guys are going to try to score, but they stink. NFL's a different story. You have to go and play. 70 is a little extreme, but once you get to 70,
Why
not
not?
go for the whole thing? Why did
100.
they? I mean, once you're at 70, go for the record.
Could have done it.
And again, I don't think anybody in the league. If you're ever, is there one coach in the league that you'd want to not run it up against Sean Payton? See, years ago, remember years ago, we're in an age where everybody kind of hated each other. Glanville hated Sam White, and Walsh tended to hate everybody too. He on the quiet low. Parcells hated whoever was coaching the Eagles, especially if it was Buddy Ryan. So a lot of this dislike. And remember, the Bengals and the Oilers were taking turns running up on each other,
62-7.
Sure, and then the Jets and the Patriots didn't like each other. Remember what the Patriots did to the Jets the one year? I think it was the butt fumble game.
Yeah.
They put a 49 piece on them late in the year. You don't have a lot of that juice anymore. I don't have a problem with them scoring 70. I thought it'd be cool if McDaniel threw in something like, "Hey, this is what happens when you say stuff about other coaches." I mean, that would have been epic.
Or taking a shot at the quarterback. You listen, Peyton last year on TV basically said Bridgewater's going to supplant Tua, and Tua turns around and he lit him up.
It's the NFL. It's the pay for play. This is why between that and then we'll get to the baseball toward the end. But this narrative on the baseball drives me crazy too. For anybody really that's older than us, it seems if somebody gives up a home run and flips the bat, they want to hit them in the next time up. And I'm like, not if you're coaching my team.
No.
How about throw better pitches?
Yeah.
You're not going to put the next guy on base.
Yeah, especially when you're coming down to some of these series, and we'll get into them in a couple of minutes, but it's just foolishness. I mean, look, everyone's talking about what the Eagles are doing with the tush push. Patriots have done it for years under Tom Brady. The Eagles right now, you look at that game the other night. I thought
that's causing stuff. Yeah, the tush push. Yeah. What do you think about that? I mean, it's what Chris Sims said. Why aren't they naming him? They're saying some guy said it ain't some guy.
Everyone knows it was
his kid. Yeah, it's not like some unknown guy. He was wanting somebody to hurt. He was a quarterback.
Yeah, but he also, I think he's got a little agenda against Hurts. Remember the ranking a couple of years ago, and then he took grief for it in golf, and then he kind of doubled down and walked back to comments, and maybe he's just saying something to see what sticks. Florio turned around and said Purdy's not going to be a good quarterback because of his last name. I mean, it's just stupid, asinine stuff.
The narratives again. I mean, all the narratives stink. I always think mine are better, but these are getting really bad. How can you have an agenda against Hurts? Who cares? I mean, it is what it is. If he's going to go revert back to, what some people think that he's a little bit overpaid, okay, we'll find out. And if you think he's going to keep going and NFL defenses aren't going to adjust or whatever, that's fine too. That's the beauty of betting because it's a chin check for all BS. If you disagree. The number's there for you to shoot at with your own money. Yeah. I'm actually hearing this. I'm hearing this on sports betting stations that I'll listen to. Sometimes you hear good stuff. Sometimes you hear bad. One of the bad things is if somebody says, I disagree with that line or I don't see what they're going. Well, if you disagree with the line, you can bet against it.
Of course.
That's why that's out there. It's a price.
It's out there.
They're saying, I think Microsoft is really trading low today. Well, buy it. What's wrong with you? There's, I don't know. Remember last year when Dallas went into Minnesota and Minnesota had the record, but the numbers behind it were really bad. People were like, how is Dallas favored by 3 in Minnesota?
Yep.
That's disrespectful to the. No, it isn't. It's a price. Go buy the other side. And Cowboys hung a 40-3 piece on.
They waxed them in that game. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you disagree with Hurts or you think that they're going to regress or whatever, you got to remember he's only one guy on the team. This is something for your listeners and people. Quarterback's the most important guy.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't go without the quarterback. But conversely, if you have a really good defense, top 5, top 7, top 8, top 10, by any metric you want to use, it does help.
Yeah,
it does help. And the Eagles do have a very good defense. I don't know wherever you put them, they're definitely top tier, however tier you want to put it. You want to be top 5, top 8, or top 12. All that's fine. Not bad.
Laying 8.5 against Washington that just got destroyed by Buffalo. So all the talk of Sam Howell and Bieniemy in the offense. The kid had 4 picks, had a rough night, rough afternoon, I should say. Buffalo looks like they're kind of putting it back together. When you look at that Eagles and that Washington game, again, at home, 1:00 kickoff, depending upon how the weather is. Commanders coming in after getting waxed. Eagles in Tampa, now they're back home, laying 8.5. Comfortable with that number?
No, I mean,
Washington plays them tough.
I think the number's high, but the tough part of single-digit high spreads is you could play a close game and still lose 24-14.
Yeah,
it's just kind of bad luck if that happens. I do like Washington plus the 8.5. I don't know if you like a high single-digit dog, it's actually better to wait. I don't think that line is going to go to 7.5. When it was 8, I kind of took a look at it early, but I thought if you like Washington, I think you might get an 8.5 or a lower juice 8. If I don't, and something happens injury-wise or whatever, I'm okay with passing the game. But if I had to, I would look at Washington. If you want to play a teaser, a leg with the Eagles, teased under 2 is not a terrible play, but the price is important. You probably don't want to play it at PointsBet or whoever, which is going to kind of kill sponsoring if PointsBet ever wants to sponsor the show. Sorry, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just that teaser prices for this particular product is not great. You don't want to pay 140 if you're going to give up 7. You don't want to pay really more than I wouldn't pay more than 115 if you're giving up 6. You could pay 120. Again, it's up to your discretion. You don't want to pay more than that because now you're forcing the teaser legs to win at a little bit of a higher rate. Traditionally, just with all things being equal, high single-digit favorites, more than a touchdown, but right around no more than 9. They do win the game straight up.
Yeah.
At a pretty big sample size, 65, 67, 68%, around. Well, usually 3-1.
But then almost with that, then you would say, then just take the Eagles with the points or take them, the money line. But if you mention if it was at
you have to measure out you have to measure out and do the math on your own. What do you think's better? Is it better to have a 2-team parlay and do the math, or would you rather have? Because in effect, the teaser is a parlay. So would you rather? If you have a low juice teaser, it's worth it. If you like the Eagles, I'm not saying that you just blindly play the Eagles. See what happened when you blindly played Jacksonville as a home favorite, and blindly played Baltimore. There were some red flags. There were some red flags there. We don't know if Baltimore or Jacksonville are the cream of the crop, so to speak. Are they? It used to be the gauge was, are they playoff teams? Now the playoffs are expanded, kind of watered that down. You have to change what you do. Or are they a top tier team, top 3rd in the league, top 10, however one wants to do their power ratings? It's not a given that Jacksonville is. It's not a given.
I would say Baltimore, yes. Jacksonville.
So those types of teams laying at home a touchdown or more, they if you go back historically and look, say, okay, who loses these games? It's those kind of teams. It's the non-elite teams. It's not the Patriots with Brady or the Colts with Peyton in the years past. It's not those elite teams that lose those games. So that's where the difficult part is for bettors to find out. Hey, I think Rich. all things being equal, even if you don't have an elite team, get a team that can score. You know, have a team that can score. Conversely, it helps if you're getting points like Washington, if you're not like a doormat who can't score. Years ago, it used to be if your defense was good, if you John Fox it, so to speak, you know. Now that's out the window because of the rules. I tend to use where can you score? Because if you can score, and this was my rationale with the Bears last week, I thought that they could score at least at all. They're a total disaster.
I mean, you might have to lean them the rest of the year. Now, how about this? They play Denver. I mean, that's a crap ball. I mean,
it's a good thing you bring up there because I didn't look it up. It would be interesting to look up for trend wise. Is that, you know, because it's such a rare thing of what happened with Miami and the Broncos last week. What happens on the next week of a team that scores 70 gets 700? Well, it doesn't happen. So you have to lower. You have to lower that down. Say, okay, what happens when the team, you know, outscores the other team, you know, by 50 plus or by 40 plus? Are they dogs? Because we have Miami as a dog on the road, after scoring 70, and Denver just got lamped.
Now they're favored by 3.5.
On the road,
lost by 50, and they're favored.
In the NFL today, where there's parity at the rear, it's really crazy.
You lost by 50, and the other team lost by 30, but you're going on the road and you're a 3.5 point dog. And to your point, I think the Buffalo is recency bias, and I still believe people are not sold on Miami. They're not 100% sold on Miami. They're looking at.
I agree with you 100%, and it did not help that the Bills looked so phenomenal last week. I mean, they basically I was just about to say, hey, Bieniemy is really showing.
I said
he's you know, he shut his mouth, and he's going to be the head coach. He's got his, and then last week happens lose by 12 or something. So you look at the Bills demolish them. Now you have this line, and I think you're exactly right. You have this kind of a contradiction going where people will overvalue usually this type of thing. But I think because Miami's coming from the middle of the pack almost in a lot of the public's eye, they're not convinced. And you're hearing it from all the pundits or the fake guys that are put on TV, as we both pass over, where the agreement is, I have to see what else Miami can do. I don't know what else you have to see. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me a lot of early on, for the younger followers that you have early on, with Kurt Warner and the Rams with Vermeils. In the offseason, Trent Green got hurt. Trent Green was supposed to be the guy for that offense.
But that's the difference.
Everybody said, oh, my gosh, So but by week 4, remember they came out.
They beat San Francisco.
They beat San Fran, and it's San Fran.
Yep, I know.
And everybody was kind of like, whoa. And then you had the guys go, well, I don't know. Let me see them do it again, this kind of thing. And then they just started putting, you know, it wasn't that they beat San Fran, it was how they did it. Remember, they were just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And then it took until the end of the year, really, because I remember there was a late game late in the year. You know, people still weren't on board. I think they played the Patriots late, and they won the game, but they weren't laying really what they really should have been laying. It wasn't so. It's not uncommon in football because we don't have that many games. But if you have the things in place where you know you can compare, so what does Miami look like to previous teams, and how did they do?
Yeah,
it's not a great way, but it could lead you down the path of knowing where Miami's going to be.
These lines this week, right? We're starting to kind of separate the boys from the men. You look at, you know, Dallas 6.5 over the Patriots. San Fran, I think, is 14. I saw as high as 15, now 14.5. It'll probably settle maybe at 14. You have Kansas City, 9.5, 10. I mean, this is so someone might be looking at this game or these games per se in 6+. Maybe they kind of steer clear, or maybe they're more comfortable with a Ravens and a Browns or Cincinnati and the Titans 2.5, 3.5. It's a tough week, man, because if you're not feeling it, don't bet the game. But I think people are going to get sucked in to doing a lot of teases with some of these lines this week.
Well, I mean, some of the teasers, I've always told people that were beginning bettors, just avoid teasers because they get carried away. If you show them a couple good ones that actually have some positive expected
I
value.
like the Eagles. Listen, and here's
if you want to put the Eagles in with, now you got to wait for the dog. I always tell people, wait to the very, very, very.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because I'm okay with 2.5 to get me to 3 with a field goal. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with the hook there at home. I don't have a problem with that. They'll win that game by 7.
Oh yeah, no, oh no. My point being is you want to have all the money into the market.
Yeah.
And so you want to wait to make sure that number is fairly efficient. So this is why I don't advise teasers earlier in the week, because you don't know where that's going to end up.
You've seen where the line's going to settle. Injury report.
Sure, because it's early. All the money's not in. You don't know.
Yep.
You don't know if that's a true favorite of 2. Traditionally, if you see favorites that are less than 3, I always used to think, well, the market is on, or smart people are on this one team.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a popular team, whatever.
Yep.
And they don't want to move it to 3. 3 is a key number. So it's almost like, well, they trust the dog here, but so it's almost one of these in between lines, because anything less than 3 was sort of a dead number, but popular for teasers. So this is a good teaser week. I think you don't want to do a thing, I know historically, of laying the favorite like last week with Dallas in Arizona, playing more than a touchdown. Now, that game was like in November, and you had Dallas, and they had 9 wins. You saw that they were in the top, I don't know, 7 or 8 in scoring.
A little more confident.
I would say, all right, that's not a great play, but if you said look at their opponent, I would say, okay, week 3, we don't know. We don't know what Dallas is.
Right.
Week 2, we think we know what Dallas is. And I know we've seen McCarthy, we've seen Dak. The defense is great, but we don't know if they're better than the Eagles.
Yeah, and you made the point last week when you talk about teams that you think are tanking. First half they play well, second half they kind of fade. That a little bit of a role reversal last week with Arizona, right? Because they played hard that game. But I think
it is the key with Arizona, which is important, is that the coaching staff is going to be there.
Yeah.
I think you get this thing. Remember years ago, this sticks in my mind when remember this old cliche of the coaches getting tuned out. The coach has been there too long.
Players not hearing them. Yep.
You're tuning him out. And this kind of thing, I think, happened years ago. I remember in Detroit. The Lions went through some coaches. Fonts was done. I remember they brought in Bobby Ross.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd heard a story where, the Lions were just tuned out. Herman Moore and everybody, and Bobby Ross was yelling at something, and he was just like, listen, he was done.
Players checked out, which they're going to do in New York.
Right. So now that really matters defensively, because if you're not going to lay out the tackle guys, because the staff's going, hey, they're making business decisions. Arizona is different because they have a staff in it, and the staff can tell the players, listen, we know we're not winning the Super Bowl this year. We're not winning even winning the division, but you guys are playing for your NFL lives.
Yeah.
And the guys that are guaranteed contracts, I get, maybe they have a different strategy for them, a la the Saquon Barkley situation. That'll come up, with the tagging or whatever. I'm talking about in general. I think a good way to get on some of the younger guys is to say, listen, I don't care if we're 40-0. I want to see how you're pass blocking my guy.
Effort on film.
Sure. But I will stick to last week. I think as the season goes on, and Arizona is sitting there 2-8 or 2-9, 2-10, it becomes, my hamstring, that kind of thing. But they did show something, because Arizona's played tough every game so far.
100%.
They've They have not laid down.
They
The tank. Remember, for the people listening, the tanking's never in the players. The tanking is in what personnel you put out.
Yeah.
You know, am I going to sit my quarterback? And it's something that Arizona's going to have to seriously, with as deep the quarterback draft is this year. A couple teams you're going to start to see around week 9 and week 10 making some business decisions.
Hey,
the Colts made business decisions last year. That's what Saturday was, and nobody in the universe got it because everybody's so afraid of saying this is tanking without tanking.
Yeah. Well, I guess they didn't want to. He was on TV and played, and it was just a horrible hiring. But that's
perfect. I think it's a great hire if you're the Colts. It's phenomenal. You bring in a guy who doesn't want the head coaching job. Think about it. I mean, it's like he should have hired like his daughter. So
well,
you brought him in. Saturday is just a rah-rah guy. Yeah, let's go through this. What happened? That's it. Tank. You know what? It was a mistake. He stinks. We won one game. I can't believe that happened that way.
Yeah. No, I hear you. You play kind of the babe in the woods. Give me 2 or 3 games that you're looking at right now. I know it's only a Thursday, but you have kind of your eye on.
Oh, well, listen, I look early, obviously, especially for things like totals, although I don't play totals really seriously until about week 7 or 8. That's just unless I see something ridiculous.
Plus, defenses are always ahead of the offenses early on.
Yeah, I kind of don't know. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't feel as confident if I have, a matchup that should be under 43.
Yep.
Later in the year, I might see a 44.5 on that. Early in the year, I might see a 43. So that's just, I think you look at things and you see where it goes. And I like what you said. If you're going to look at teasers, I think you take a hard, serious look at Green Bay tonight. As long as you can get more than 7, again, you want to watch what you're paying. You want to have that as one of your legs, because Green Bay seems to have all the attributes. They're not playing Kansas City. They're not playing who we think maybe elite.
They were down
Detroit's
17.
a nice team, but when you dress up and have to go somewhere else on the road, I like it that Detroit can score, but Green Bay can score.
Yeah,
a little bit. I know last year's a little weird. Last week was a little weird, but you're playing an elite defense. A lot of moving parts here. I think Green Bay is going to be able. They're not going to be a poor scoring team. They're home. If you get them more than 7. I think it's a good teaser. Like Atlanta, Jacksonville, the game that's going to be in London. I ignore a lot of the London games. It's a neutral site. I wouldn't be surprised if this landed 3. I think Denver played last year against Jacksonville. They had a game that landed 3.
Oh, that was a horrible game.
It was awful. A lot of these games are bad. I was hoping they would switch it up and play a couple games in Canada or somewhere. I don't know. But, whatever. I thought they made Jacksonville play there twice or something.
They always do because the owner wants a team in London.
That's something we'll talk about, unless he's going to fund it. He's got enough money to do it. I do like Miami if you can get 3. If you don't get 3, I do like it as part of a teaser leg. So someone will no doubt DM me. Do I like Miami money line? Not this early in the year. I don't because if Miami loses a game like they lost in the playoff game where they played really, really well and a couple fluky things happen to the better team kind of, and they lose the game close. That could happen, and we won't know anything. The only information that'll tell us that this is 27-24 or 33-30 is that both teams are good, which is kind of what we know right now. How good we might be splitting hairs. Both teams.
35-10, Buffalo wins, running away with it. Then people are like, maybe it's an aberration early on about Miami. Maybe Buffalo really is good. Like now we're looking at Buffalo as the top team, San Fran, Kansas City, and Philadelphia. Miami's still there, but and quite
remember there was a
frankly,
game. Remember there was a game years ago where the Patriots ended up with the top 5 defense and they won the Super Bowl. And early in the first 3 weeks, they went to Buffalo and got shut out with
I remember
Brady.
that.
Remember, it was a 31-0 piece or something.
Yep.
24. It was just almost like everybody's looking and go, like, hey, was somebody hurt? Like, what's going on? No, it just was an early season game. Belichick has kind of a reputation early September. He's trying stuff. He wants to see what's going to, and these are weighted. We should. I weight the risk of the bets later in the year. I don't flat bet these things. I think later in the year you have more information. People say, "Oh, well, so does the bookmaker." Not necessarily. Remember, it's the bettors that hammer the line into efficiency. And once college basketball starts, I think people kind of shy away a little bit out of football. They still bet first half, still second half, still totals. There's still a lot of money in the market. But point being is that I think there's still ways to win later in the year. But we're all early in the year. I do like that as a teaser leg. I do like Green Bay as a teaser leg. I do like Eagles as a teaser leg. If the Rams end up being close also, that line open, the Colts was one. If you could get 7.5 with the Rams, if not, I wouldn't use it as a leg or anything. As far as straight games, boy, I tell you, the Chargers are just going to keep laying. They just keep laying juice here, and it's real. I have almost a mini blind spot when it comes to the Chargers because I think that if you can separate everything that you're hearing negatively against the Chargers, it's all negative.
Yeah.
Negative. Everybody wants them to be 3-0 and look exactly like San Fran.
Yeah, or San Fran. Yeah.
And they are kind of who they are. You don't want them to be exactly who they've been the last 3 years, where they lose constant close games. But that could be, is that a trend or something that's there, that losing games that close? It's happened consistently. Is there something that they're doing? I don't know exactly. Everybody's pretending that they know. I think it could just be they're in a division with Kansas City. They're in the AFC. A lot of teams are good. You're going to lose close games. Are you going to lose them late? With that being said, I wish I could take the Chargers this week. They're laying too much. But if I was going to lay a favorite, I would play the Chargers this week.
Real quick, because I know you wanted to get a little baseball. What about Seattle and the Giants? I think they hold Saquon out one more week. Now that line's moved too right now before the Giants.
It opened Giants were a dog. And as a dog, I love the Giants. It was small, though. It's very small. Zero is a dead number, basically. But as I say that, watch them watch them win, that typical Giants, they'll bust out a 31-30. If they're playing Seattle, 35-34 final, to really stick it to everybody when the line opened. But when it was +1, it wasn't, it was the open. I like the Giants in the game. I mean, how do you back the Giants after Seattle has proven that they can score?
Yep.
And
Giants have no defense and no pass rush.
Giants look bad. Seattle looked bad for 3 quarters. They come back. They end up covering comfortably over a team that's got, nobody knows who Carolina is, but they at least they were playing some decent defense. Bottom line, we look at Seattle now; they can score, and but I like the Giants. I think it's a bad spot. I wish I was getting at least a point, but I do like the Giants in the game. I'm probably going to play it, but I don't know. The numbers I think is still good now, -1. but you don't want to be laying 3 or anything like that. It's weird to back the Giants with no Saquon, but doesn't it set up like Daniel Jones is going to win some kind of a shootout?
It does, but here's the thing: the primetime record, the Giants historically stink on Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football, aside from a couple fluke years here and there. And maybe you're hoping for Geno to just make a Geno mistake, run out of bounds late.
I don't like Seattle's defense. I mean, it's going to hurt them as we get deeper in the season. All defenses are going to look bad with as much scoring as we have, but it makes the defenses that play really, really well stand out. But I don't want to miss the ones that are in the middle that aren't, awful. I think Seattle is the awfulness of their defense is going to catch up with them. But you asked me about it. I don't love it. I actually am more interested in the Sunday night game, which is what kind of I mean, that is just like between Hard Knocks, Joe Namath now comes out.
I think they're going to get absolutely destroyed.
What is Joe Namath? Does Joe Namath have to say anything now? I mean,
but you have a head coach. The head coach is so defiant. See, you talked about tuning when you start to tune him out. You don't think the players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, are like, we're always out on the field, right? Because they're 3 and out. And then offensively, you got a backup running back. You got the young wide receivers. And Rodgers, I mentioned this the other day on BYP. I don't need Rodgers to go on McAfee and sit there and say, I don't like what I'm seeing. Dude, you had a freaking cup of coffee. You had 4 freaking snaps with the Jets. Enough. I'll listen to Joe Namath right now in Jet Green. Then I'll listen to Aaron Rodgers.
Well, his Super Bowl it really gave him a lot of
juice.
I know he's great. I'm still mad that he didn't run in for the touchdown on that 3rd down play against the Bucs. I mean, he's waiting for LaFleur to call the 4th down go. At the end of the game where they kicked the field goal and then Brady goes down and score. Like, just run it in, Aaron. Yeah. I mean, that's the only. His other games the other times he hasn't made the Super Bowl, I haven't blamed him. He had an inferior team in San Fran.
I do. No. Well,
the Falcons,
he lost a lot he lost a lot of big games. And listen, that's when that relationship was fractured, when they took the ball out of his hands on 4th down. You're 100% correct. He should have ran it in.
Well, but he should have ran it in. He trusted LaFleur. It was a mistake. 3rd down. Here's the mistake. We talked about this in previous shows. There's only a handful of guys, Sirianni's one of them, that if they're going to use all 4 downs late in the game, they've already made that decision.
Of course. So
it adjusts their 3rd down play.
Of course. So if I'm running it on 3rd and 6, I know I'm going for it on 4th down.
Exactly. And the defense is really, really stuck because they want to guard the 1st down line, but they don't want to overly commit to stop you 3 downs short because they're worried about what you're going to do on 4th down. They're basically handing you free yards.
Yeah.
Traditional coaches aren't taking it. Sirianni is LaFleur didn't, or else this entire world would have looked different.
He'd still be in Green Bay
from 6 yards, because people were comparing the 4th down call of 4th and 7. I said, that's not the call I'm talking about. That should have been 4th and 2. It's a much different scenario if you can grab those extra couple yards.
100%.
But the to your point, I think the Jets are going to cover this game.
They're
going to cover this game.
I can't on good faith.
It's unbelievable that they cannot score.
That's it. You're asking Zach Wilson to score at least minimum 27 points, minimum 27, because there's no way they're containing the Chiefs.
Maybe not. It's tough. I got to say, it is tough traditionally. Especially early in the year. This isn't December where you have Kansas City sitting 12-2.
I get you.
And they got teams breathing on them, and they're going for the 1st or 2nd seed, and they're sticking them in November, and you got to go into North Jersey, and now they're dressing you up to win. And there is it's small set, but there is some background rationale for early. In other words, Kansas City can go in here
and win, but take it easy.
Well, I don't think teams pump the brakes. I think there is a lot of passion. These guys are adults. They have a lot of pride. The defense could, for one game, this could be a 10-9 game.
I don't know,
could
man.
happen. It's really tough to back it. Here's why it's tough to back the Jets. I don't like backing in this NFL. I don't like backing teams that can't score. It's very, very common sense. It seems common sense. But before the rule change, 10, 15 years ago, you could have a team that was like, all right, they're in scoring 20 for 20, but look at their defense.
Right.
And I'm getting a touchdown. That was like, I'm getting more than 3. I got a shot here.
I get you.
And
the D keeps them in.
It's not a game I love, but you notice this thing ain't 10. I mean, what's 10? 10's not a
Listen, we found out. Listen,
number.
Taylor's going to be there. Kelsey's getting his, 7 for 135 and 2 touchdowns. Taylor Swift's going to be there. You might have to get some, a little prop on Taylor Swift. How many times we see her on camera? This is my look, but don't touch. I'm not touching this friggin' game at all.
Well, it's going to be interesting because it's a night game. You have New York, both places, and then we'll lead into the baseball. You have New York. New York's going to be prime time for the world, Sunday night, Monday night, and you're going to have no playoffs for anybody in New York. You have no Mets. You have no Yankees.
Which I told you.
You have no Red Sox. Right?
That doesn't bother me one bit.
You got the Cubs. You got the guy dropping fly balls in winnable games. They don't want to win, the Cubs, apparently. And if a team's going to lose three straight, we talked off air about San Diego. If a team is going to lose it's going to be the Cubs.
Yeah.
So I don't think San Diego is going to squeeze in because I think I have to look exactly at the number. Do they need both to lose? I'm not positive. I'd love to see San Diego
right now. They're 3.5 back.
So they have to win all 3.
Got to run the table and you got to get help.
I think Cubs have to lose all 4, but they only got to leapfrog 1, right?
So they would actually
leapfrogging 2 is
Cincinnati. Cincinnati and Chicago, because they're sitting at 79. Cincinnati and Chicago sitting at 81, 82 respectively. And Miami's still there too.
I got to say, and to you and to your listeners, just for context, I've been crunching baseball numbers for a long time. Late 90s. I mean, where you just get the data and look, and sometimes in the data you're looking for stuff. A lot of stuff is just whatever. But sometimes you look at stuff, you're like, wow, look at this team. How come I don't remember that stuff? We're going to look back and look at the Padres as that kind of team. The run differential is unbelievable. They're a complete
enigma.
They won an extra innings game a couple nights. It was the first one all year.
Yeah.
Think of a good team that didn't win an extra inning game until late September. It's insane. They've lost. What's their 10 game or 12 games under 500 and one games. So they won no 1-run games. When they won 8-1. They have a firepower offense. So it would make sense that something goofy like that would happen. Everything loses and the San Diego gets in. So 10 years from now, we can look back and be like, hey, San Diego shouldn't even have been in that.
Their lineup is stacked. There's 3 teams in the NL with a positive run differential. Philly, Chicago, San Diego, okay? They've had winning streaks of 8+ several times this season. You look at their roster from top to bottom, they're the equivalent of the Chargers. There's something not there with that team. They can't be that talented to have that type of lineup and only win 79 games.
Well, you can look back. You can literally look back. If they, I used to love the Inquirer. Jason Stark used to, years ago, before ESPN hired him, he'd have the Sunday, and it would just be all crazy correlated stats. Things have happened in 78. It's exact same thing happened. Everything. Cool thing about baseball, there's no clock. There's a lot of data. Things have happened before. That's the cool thing about baseball, is that whatever we see is that I have to go back and look to see if I remember in the last 38 years if this has happened where you have this kind of team that's obviously built to be a premium contender, didn't completely dump, just lost a lot of close games.
It's a waste of a year. It's a waste of a year.
It is. I'm not going to cry for them, but I just think this would be even cooler if they had won one more game where they only had to win two, because it does add juice to the weekend. You don't want the end of the year of baseball to not have juice. I can't say it does. It does have juice. With that being said, if Atlanta doesn't win the whole thing, or at least doesn't get to, say, 7 games. I hope it's Philly. Well, Philly, Atlanta has to play Philly, right? Are they not? I can't remember.
Atlanta's going to have home field advantage throughout.
I knew that, but the Phillies can't skip them, right?
No.
But they really should, right? No.
So if you're the Phillies, who would you prefer, Cincinnati or Chicago?
You want Cincinnati. You want Arizona, right?
Arizona. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get in.
Well, if Arizona gets in, you kind of want them.
Yeah.
You don't want the Cubs because they can hit, but the Phillies will beat all three of them. Phillies will beat.
But to your point, Atlanta would be a major, colossal. When you can argue, okay, who's got the MVP? If it's LA with Betts or Acuna for Atlanta, it would be a major disappointment, especially a couple of years ago when they had that unexpected run to the World Series. Atlanta is just too stacked, and their pitching's really good. They have a very good bullpen. Their lineup's ridiculous. But again, man, in a 7-game series against the Dodgers,
the Dodgers are good. I mean, they're not all time good, but the Dodgers are good. The Phillies are good because they're sneaky. They can hit. Neither of us trust Noah.
No, I mean, it's well documented.
Phillies don't have the pitching to win 7, but the way they hit is bizarre. I mean, it is
in that ballpark.
They could pitch really poorly and win, 10-8.
Yeah.
I don't know if you bet that way. They're definitely going to be dogs. Atlanta's going to be overwhelming, but I don't think they're going to be Yankee Dodger type favorites like previously. But they are that kind of team. What they're doing is unprecedented. They're probably going to get the record of 307 homers, which I didn't even think the Twins had it of all teams. I thought for sure it was somebody.
What year did the Twins have it?
Like 2019 or something. Like,
really?
I don't even remember that.
Wow, I would suspect that, remember that Baltimore squad years ago? They had 9 players, 8 players, 20 plus.
In the 90s, how does the Texas Rangers all steroid it up? How are they not?
Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Palmeiro.
What? Remember before? I don't remember. It was remember those years they do break-ins, and you were like, "What in the world's going on in Texas?" Yeah. Everyone's hitting homers. Remember, even going back to the Raffy years.
We saw the same. We thought the same thing early on with Tampa. Guys were having career years, man. I mean, I just pulled it up. So right now, Atlanta, 303. You know what's so funny? Everyone's talking Acuna. The first baseman has 53 friggin' home runs, Matt Olson.
It's not just Acuna. The team hits. We both watched, in Technicolor what they did to the Phillies.
Yeah.
The Phillies, remind me of a team in basketball that plays Patino style against a team that's playing the same style but better players.
Right.
That's what the Phillies are. The Phillies are, hey, listen, we can hit. And guys in the Braves are like, well, look, so can we hang a breaking ball? We'll hang it into the bleachers. So, but I think that they're the best hitting team I can remember since Cleveland. And remember, Cleveland didn't win. The Indians
about 94, 95, 96.
Yeah, that team that didn't win really should have.
Yep. Bell, Ramirez, all those guys. Yep.
Well, you had some really good teams during that time. This time, Phillies are good, but they're not all time. Dodgers are very good, but they're not as good even as they were previously. So this is almost like you have a Yankee-style 99 type team who should go in and just,
I'll do you one 98. I'll do you one better. 98 when they just demolished San Diego. And
Well,
Brochus.
remember '99, the Braves team was good. And I remember them interviewing Smoltz after the sweep, and he goes, listen, this team's an all-time great team. And I think the '99 team is the Yankee team that lost a bunch of games in September maybe. But they were great. But listen, they were great for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Are the Braves in that level? I think they are, but there's more playoff games. There's more chance for variance. But you don't want to see, to my original point, you don't want to see that if they don't lose, what's that say about the regular season? Are you going to start to see kind of like an NHL thing where, you don't have to, or NBA, are you going to start see really aggressive load management for pitchers? You already see it now, but a team's going to say, like, we don't need to win. Look at the Braves. They lost. Look at last year, the Dodgers. They lost in the short series.
Especially when you run away with the division, from start to finish, when you're 15 games up in July or August. I mean, that's when you kind of scale back. But again, individual stats, man, they want to get these records. They want to hit the doubles, the home runs, the stolen bases, especially if they're potentially in an MVP race.
I just meant the pitchers. You know what I mean? Like when you're up the bat.
Oh, yeah.
It's like now with the teams that are out of it. Everybody's like, oh, well, Pirates are out of it. They're not going to play. Hey, listen, when those guys are batting, they're in the beauty of baseball. One of the beautiful things, they're batting for themselves.
Of course, at this
point.
They're
trying to hit 4 homers. They don't care. Right. They don't care if they lose. If it's 10-9, so be it. Yeah. But as a manager, I don't want to see the Braves lose and then have this mindset in the league of, well, we can't pitch any of these guys past the 5th inning because I'm going to save everybody for a playoffs that we know we're going to make. Yeah. We're going to kind of coast in. Now, that being said, I don't think I'm going to root against the Phillies, but I'll root for, a great series.
Yeah.
How's that? Is there anybody in college that you want to look at real fast? I get a lot of asks about college. September, I don't really go crazy. I'm so aggressive in the bowls.
Sure.
When I get the right matchups in the bowls, and then October, I'm usually a little bit better. But you're kind of seeing the writing on the wall a little bit with some of these teams.
Well, I'll ask you right now. Does Colorado rebound and at least cover against USC?
No, I think Colorado is going to be one of these crazy, polarizing, I think, cool things, because if Deion Sanders didn't coach this team,
no one give a shit.
I mean, oh my God, it's almost a completely new roster. He can literally go 4-9, and it's a good year.
Yeah, 100%. Well, of course, after winning.
You have people of low intellect that follow sports, they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, blah blah blah." But they're not a great. They're an average team. What them in Colorado State, that game that happened, that's about where it should be. What's lost in all this Colorado talk is, Colorado State went out last week and won against Middle Tennessee as a dog, as a 3.5, 4-point dog. And the line will open like 3. People bet Middle Tennessee like Colorado State. Well, I saw Colorado State now, and they stink. Well, Middle Tennessee State isn't any good either. So Colorado State goes out, win the game. Good for that coach. I think Colorado is going to have the close games going to be, if they play, I believe, off the top of my head, they play Arizona and Arizona State. I believe they're at Arizona State. That won't be a gimme, even though Arizona State's no good. So that'll be a fun game to watch.
It's next week, right after USC.
Yeah, I hope is that Colorado hangs around a little bit, because USC can score. They're obviously an elite team, but if Colorado get hung another 45-8 or 4, USC's defense isn't anywhere near as good as Oregon's. So I'm hoping you see maybe 40-20, but if it's a 45-6, all the luster will be gone.
Of course.
I think. Remember, the Colorado State game, they got 9 million people roughly to watch a game, and you have non-college football fans watching the games. People that just traditionally watch the pros don't know anything about it. And I think that's good when that happens, especially when Alabama loses late. Clemson has 2 losses. Notre Dame has already lost. Although I like the Ryan Day Holtz, there's some juice there. And Holtz came back. You're 0-2 against Michigan,
I don't know
which
what
is great.
These coaches, like it's so funny. They sit there about, we don't want the clicks and the views and talking this. I mean, Lou Holtz is 80 something. Leave the man alone. I mean, and I'm not a Notre Dame fan. And by the way, speaking of which, if there's one game I'm looking at, Notre Dame's laying 5.5, 6 against Duke on the road. Other than that, these lines to me, again,
Duke's underrated. And it reminds me of the game Notre Dame went into North Carolina, and North Carolina was good. The spread was under 7, and North Carolina, Notre Dame really gave it to them. Duke is an underrated team. I actually want to get more. I don't like the spread under 7. It's kind of like when we talked about Ole Miss last week.
Yep.
Ole Miss is good. You're really rolling the dice here, like giving Alabama less than 7. Alabama actually has a losing record under Saban when they're getting less than 7. So the market tells you teams even. Alabama has lost out. But I don't like that because it's in a vacuum. A couple of those teams Saban had were not, super elite.
Yeah.
So I don't like lumping all Saban's teams in together. I'll look at a crap game that I think is Temple's getting 3 from I believe Tulsa. Ooh. And it's a brutal game, but Tulsa stinks, So if you're looking for a reason to take a slop game that's area, I think Temple can win the game. I'd really like to have 3.5 there. But and this week isn't compared to last week because besides the Colorado game, we had a lot of really good games.
Yeah, we did. There
was a lot of good. I think it's since 2006 you've had that many top 25 teams match up against each other. I wish that was first week October.
Sure.
But we're still going to have some good matchups and things to talk about. So I talk about college football in September. I say, relax because you can't win the national championship in September, but you can in a way you can lose it.
No doubt.
Notre Dame isn't on the outs, but they're on the outs. They have a lot of things that has to happen. Is there anything specific you liked in NFL that just blew you away? I guess not.
No, you gave me, I like some of the plays that we talked about. I like, I'm going to wait to see some of these lines, how they close, we'll inch it up to kickoff, see what kind of a value I get. There's some of the teasers, I'll wait to see. I'm leaning maybe if Saquon were to go, see how that line moves. I do think the Giants are in a must-win situation. I'm not touching that Jet game. I might sprinkle something on Miami. I think Miami's going to shut up a lot of people this week. Washington, the Eagles, I think the Eagles win that one 34-17, 34-20. And remember, Hurts was under the weather, man. He wasn't feeling 100%. So they can run the football. Maybe Washington, maybe we saw their best, even though it was only first couple weeks of the season. Maybe Hal's not who we thought he was. I kind of go by, the thought process that, what you're dispelling as well. And nothing, like I said, has jumped out at me, but I'll give it another day or two.
I give it another week. I don't people that are betting, they want to win, sometimes it's a little bit more challenging if you win early.
Yeah.
Like, if you run out, you think, I think if you're betting and you go out, I don't know, say you go 20-12 in the first 4 weeks. Well, you think, I got everything figured out. I know what's going to happen. It's almost better if you start out, 12-13 and it makes you work a little bit harder. But wait a minute, maybe I'm a little bit confused who I thought teams were. What was that the old Dennis Green thing? They are who they thought they were. Nobody could figure out what the heck he was talking about. Yeah. I figured it out what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. We some of these teams, they are who we thought they were, and everybody else we don't know. I think we're on the same page in Miami. I don't think you score this. They've done it 3 weeks. They look great against New England. They look great against New England's a real defense. Chargers and Denver may not be, but let's give them credit even before they go into Buffalo. I think, again, if they lose a close game, they got the Giants next week. And, they're going to be laying, I'm going to tell you right now, probably, I know that line's probably is out, the look ahead. They've got to be laying 10, so the must win, it is, I do like, I hate must win scenarios early in the year, but I think it's a tougher game for Seattle. That's why I like the Giants. I think that's a tough game for them. But hopefully I have some more stuff.
Have it. We'll have it.
Yeah.
All right. As always, the prop kind enough to join us from our good friends over at Play It Again Sports. We mentioned too, convenient hours. They got the rewards program. They got some Hertz jerseys in, still the golf equipment. They got used weights. They got the tees. They got the hats. They got the golf equipment, the drivers, the wedges. Check them out. Go online, playitagainsports.com. Put the location, New Jersey, 1450 Clements Bridge Road. And as always, the prop kind enough to join us courtesy of Play It Again Sports, our official sponsor of BYP. Have a wonderful weekend. Put some coin in the pocket. We'll do it again next week, pal.
All right. Take care. Good luck.